Hi there, I'm Dr. Regina Zona, and this is Mindset Monday. So today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. So I just want to tell you that the definition of imposter syndrome is the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. So, have you ever had imposter syndrome? Have you ever felt that before? Well, if you have, then you are definitely part of the majority because literally 86% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point in time. So I want to tell you a little story about one of my many experiences with imposter syndrome. So I was sitting on the beach in Waikiki one year. I was singing with the Hawaii Opera Theater, and I was just sitting alone on the beach after a rehearsal and looking out into the ocean and thinking, oh my God, how lucky I am. And then that feeling turned into, oh my God, what if they find out that I'm really not who they thought that I was and that I really couldn't sing this role the way that they thought that I could? And my mind started to spiral into, how is it possible that I actually got this job? This was actually not even something that just popped into my head. My voice teacher at the time actually even said to me when I had gotten the job, he said, you know, every soprano wanted that job and you got it. And that made me think, oh my God, why did I get it? Did they make a mistake? And so the thing is that I know that my voice teacher was like giving me accolades for landing this gig, but it planted this seed in my brain that made me think that maybe I just didn't deserve it. And that is what stayed with me. And I will admit that I really didn't recover from imposter syndrome the whole time that I was there. It was actually a rather difficult gig that was, I placed all of that pressure upon myself. And then years later, I was at a conference and I met the director of that production. And when he greeted me with this huge hug and he said, oh, Regina, my favorite Donna Anna ever. And even then I was surprised. I was like, oh my God, he actually liked what I did, because I still, in the memories of that performance, I still had imposter syndrome. So, look, we all get imposter syndrome at some point in time. And so what we have to do is we have to figure out a way to combat it. Okay? Because as I have said in several videos before on these Mindset Mondays, this little negative voice in your head is never based in reality. Okay? It's only based on fear. And so what we have to do is we have to figure out a way to get past that fear. So number one, the way that you can combat imposter syndrome is know that you're not alone. As I said before, 86% of us have experienced imposter syndrome before. All right. Number two, let go of your inner perfectionist. Okay, this might be a hard one, right? Because people who experience imposter syndrome are most often high achievers, right? So the need to make everything be perfect really feeds the syndrome, because the fact of the matter is that nothing is ever going to be perfect, right? So you have to release yourself from that pressure and realize that it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. No situation is going to be perfect. So let it go. Let that perfectionism go. Number three, don't keep it to yourself. All right. If you're feeling like an imposter, talk to somebody that you trust, that knows you. Talk to a mentor or someone else that you know that you can sort of be vulnerable with. When you are feeling like an imposter, that negative self-talk is the loudest in the room. So a mentor or somebody that you feel like you can be open with can help you work through your feelings and give you some well-needed perspective. And finally, 4, give yourself permission to make a fool of yourself. Okay? Because chances are you aren't going to make a fool of yourself. But if you give yourself permission to, then there's nothing to lose, right? So when there's nothing to lose, you're going to feel free to grow without self-judgment. All right, so I have a quote for you to end this little talk. This quote is by Eleanor Roosevelt, and she said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." So, you're not an imposter, I promise. Have a great week. I'll see you next week.